Okay,
Okay.
Marcia, would you like to go next?
I'll go next. That's fine. My name's Robert Merrill. I'm a resident of Thorold, been here for a long time. I was on the Tourism Advisory Committee last year and decided to go on to something else, which is the Parks Committee. And just so you know, I don't have any political agenda. So I'm just here to try to help my community. I feel it's important that people who live in Thorold step up and do whatever they can to help everybody else. Thank you.
Okay, Marcia, would you like to go next? I'm just going down the order on my screen.
I do apologize, everyone. I'm at work too, so I'm with customers, but I'm Marcia Capola. I actually sat on this committee too with Kenny last term, help with the master plan that we had come up with. If any of you haven't had a chance to read it, do recommend that you read over it. It was a plan of what we saw the future of Thorold to look like when it came to Parks and Rec. Avid hiker, my children play in probably every sport Thorold offers and uses all the facilities. Active member on the TA, which is Hockey Association here in Thorold, so executive director there. So very active, own 2 businesses and part of the Thorold BIA. So my hands are in many different pots, but I love this. I love the town. So here I am again.
Tony, would you like to go next?
I'm Tony Vandermaas. Besides being Thorold's town crier, I'm also chairman of the library board and the Lake Gibson Corridor Preservation Task Force. I am a chair and past chair of this committee. I've been on most committees in Thorold. I also worked on the master plan. Dan and I got it going when we had this committee revamped. I had to leave last term for personal reasons. And now I'm back because I think there's still lots of work to be done.
Thank you. Rich?
Hey there, my name's Rich McCulloch. I've lived in Thorold for over 20 years now. I live in historic Thorold, I guess, with my wife, and I have twin daughters that are going to be 12 years old in a couple of weeks. What I've seen in Thorold over the last 20 years has just been amazing. Especially the downtown, the way it's changed, and I'm just so impressed, and I want to be part of that. I love the city, and I'm just kind of getting my foot in the door, so I'm hoping to get some good guidance from the rest of you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Hi there, Jeff Ikovich. Unlike most of you, I'm relatively new to Thorold. I moved here in 2019, so I'll learn a lot from the lifelong people and the people who've lived here a long time. And yeah, I want to give to my community, get involved, and contribute to the collective effort. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Eva?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm having to wear headphones because the sound quality without headphones on my computer, I don't know what happened to it, but it's not very good. Anyway, I'm seeing lots of new faces, people I've not met before. And I've recently retired from the province of Ontario and wanted to now be able to give something back to the community that I've lived in for the last 37 years that my husband and I absolutely adore. The job that I had with the province of Ontario took me out to many, many municipalities throughout Ontario to serve culture, sport, recreation, trails, park systems, many, many, many different kinds of portfolios. And I worked with municipalities, but not with the city of Thorold. And also lots of not-for-profit organizations and tourism partners. And now that I am retired, I would like to give back to my community and share things like the one project I was involved with, the creation of the Grand River Watershed Trails Network. And this network expands all the way from Dundalk in the north to Lake Erie in the south, with many, many, many trails organizations in between. So I'm very happy to be part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you. George.
Hi there, George Ravenik. I've been on a number of committees over the past years with the city of Thorold, and I thought I'd give it a change of pace and join Parks and Trails. My wife and I are avid walkers, and we both believe that there's huge recreational opportunities here in Thorold. So we look forward to having some input in making those improvements.
Thank you. Kieran.
Hi, it's Kieran Daniels here. As like most of us, a lifelong resident of the city. I've got 2 kids that also play sports here all the time. So it's nice seeing the facilities, and how I'm sure, Marcia, you've seen the facilities all over the whole circuit from here to Brantford to Port Colborne. Every one of them's different. Every one of them has their own things that are good, things that are bad. But I mean, I work in municipal infrastructure for a living. I've done so for almost 20 years now. I'm still actively working with Go Networks and whatnot of any sort of civil engineering stuff. So figured it'd be good to bring to the table. And I just want to see how our city is going to continue to grow and how we're going to provide facilities for all of the residents of Thorold. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for the accepting us in here. It looks like we got a big group of people, so it should be good.
Thank you. Peter.
Hey, good afternoon. Peter DePaula. I also live in Thorold. Surprise. But I think we're stewards of an awful lot of responsibility in terms of our land and all the parks and facilities and for the next generation. So I'm here to make sure that things prosper and they continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, would you like to make an introduction?
Sure. Joe Atkinson. I've been involved with a lot of committees over the years, all the way back to when I was on city council a million years ago. Although I've never been directly involved with this one. I have been on the Lake Gibson Corridor Task Force pretty much since it started. And I thought I'd give the big committee a try, if you know what I mean. And having said that, I am going to drop out of the meeting just for a moment or two and fix my Zoom settings. Okay, I presume nobody can see me. I think I've got when I reinstalled it, I didn't give it access to my camera. So I'll be back momentarily.
Thank you. Deborah.
Hi, I'm a lifelong resident of Thorold, as a lot of you others have stated, and I've made a lot of use of the parks and trails in the past. I'm looking forward to sitting on this committee, as I'm now retired, so I do have the time, and would like to contribute what I can to the committee.
Thank you. Dave, would you like to make an introduction on what your position is at the city?
Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Dave Baldoni. I'm acting interim manager of operations for community services. Been involved with trails design. I hold a designation from Ontario Parks Association for as a trail specialist. Been involved with development, maintenance with trails. How to detect poor trail designs, construction, maintenance, all of that. So I'm just here filling in for Stephanie in the interim. So pleasure to meet you all.
And my name is Sydney. I work for the clerk's department as their legislative assistant. So I will be making the agendas for the meetings, taking the minutes, and sending out Zoom links and everything like that. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. You should all have my email. So now that we are done introductions, we'll be moving on to item 7, which is selection of the chair and vice chair. So I will now call for nominations for the chair, and I will need a mover and seconder for each nomination. Does anyone have any nominations for chair?
I'll nominate Kieran Daniels for chair.
Okay, and can I have a seconder? Jeff? Okay. Kieran, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I will call a second and third time for nominations for the chair. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder to close the nominations for committee chair?
I'll move.
Okay, moved by Tony and then second by Ian. Okay, so there's only one nominee, so please congratulate me in, please join me in congratulating committee chair Kieran. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Karen.
Thanks.
Okay, so I will now call for nominations for the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Tony.
Okay, can I have a seconder? Seconder by George. Tony, do you accept your nomination?
Sure.
Okay, I will call a second and third time for nominations for vice chair. Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder to close nominations for the vice chair? Moved by Marcia and seconded by George. Okay, so I'll call the question. All those in favor of closing nominations? Okay, and those opposed? Okay, so that passed. So there's only one nominee, so please congratulate me in congratulating our vice chair.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Tony.
Congratulations, Tony.
Sorry. So now we will move to Kieran chairing the meeting. I will, if you're able to. If you.
Sure.
Okay, I will send you an email which has the script that will guide you through the rest of the agenda. Just one moment.
Okay, looks like I found it. Looks like I found it here. All right, let me just flip over now. Okay, so we are tasked with creating a work plan of goals for the next 3 years. So is there any discussion we currently have for that, respecting the date, time?
I've got one.
Sure.
We still have a problem with Battle of Beaver Dams Park. When we first proposed that the park be overhauled, we asked for the wall to be taken down for the express purpose that you would be able, that people going by on the sidewalk or driving by on the road would be able to see what was going on in the band shell, which is where most things go on. For some reason, when it was being built, they planted a hill there and now you still can't see it. So it was rather counterproductive, and I'd like to look into whether that could be, whether that situation can be fixed.
Okay. Ken, do you have any insight on that? who was on the committee last year? Did we, yeah, do we have any insight on why the mounding was developed?
The mound was, there was some theories about it was garbage that was left behind and stuff like that. That wasn't the case. They left it there, I believe, just for aesthetics. So I can look into why it's there and if it can be removed. I can ask that question. In the same breath, I would really like to see that the fountain we believe was going to be an actual fountain. So I will include that in my question as well, if nobody minds. But I would like to see a fountain that actually goes.
Yeah, could you ask for
good idea? Because
anyways, there were some things that.
So I'm just going to make an assumption. Working in the engineering field, that there was as-built done to these drawings after.
Sure.
So you had your IFT or whatever, your tender package that went to the contract built it. When they're done, close out the project, they provide you with as-built of what they built. So just to see what was, planned compared to what was actually built, and that might give you a better idea of what happened in the park.
Well, the two plans that the city adopted are neither one had that type of fountain. Neither one had the mound in it. Both plans had the kind of fountain that one would expect to see. And there was no mound. It was just, you could actually see the band shell. This was all added during construction at some point by somebody at the city made that decision. A staffer. And actually neither one is highly aesthetically pleasing.
I will look into it and I'll bring it back to our next meeting. Is that okay?
Yeah. See, Marcia has her hand up.
For the work plan, may I suggest that, may I suggest that we maybe defer that to the next meeting? I would recommend everyone read the master plan that we had, that the city had paid for to have done. It does have many recommendations that would apply to this committee. And maybe those are some of the recommendations we could pull out that we would like to focus on for the next 3 years. Just because it was a big undertaking, and they went through, it involves trails, senior centers, parks, facilities, kind of everything that kind of governs what we want, but it was all recommendations made by that we could look at, that the city deemed workable. So maybe that's something we look at, is read through that and everyone come back with some of the recommendations they had that they really would like us to focus on.
Marcia, where's a good place to quickly access the master plan?
If you go onto the city's website, or even just in Google, if you put Thorold Master Plan for parks, it does come up. It's 300 pages. It is a long read. Don't get me wrong. I have it printed, but it does have great recommendations. We went through everything you could think of when it came to Thorold, and it's a 10-year plan for the city of Thorold when it comes to parks, recs, and trails.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussions that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, nothing. It was just some updating in my research, kind of looking into the Parks and Trails Committee. I noticed some of the information was kind of not up to date. I guess, for instance, just the one I was thinking of was JC Park was mentioned, and that's the park I believe is now a parking lot right next to the fire station.
It's actually across the street now. We moved JC Park across the street to where the vet clinic is. So it's still considered JC Park.
That's still the same. Okay. Yeah. No, fair enough. I was just, like I said, I just noticed there was a few other things, but yeah.
Sydney, you had your hand up.
I was just going to mention that we can continue discussing the work plan a bit now, but if you would like to defer it, then we would need a mover and a seconder for that motion.
I'll move it.
A second? Okay. Okay, so do we move on to the next portion here? All right. Any discussion respecting the date and time of meetings for the remainder of the term?
This is good for me.
But I see some of us are working. For me, it's kind of, I work during the day, I work at night, I work pretty much all day long. So, but any other discussion, like, what is it better evening, better during the day?
Evening.
I'm kind of on the evening fence myself. I'm not sure.
I'd like to, like, if we can do evening, it'd be beneficial for most working adults, but
yeah,
it depends. Like if it's a virtual meeting, then kind of any time of the day, really, if you have availability to get on. But really, like, you only need to, like, I think it's like if you miss 3 in a row, it's the only time you're kicked off these meetings. So as long as we all know in advance when they are, does the time actually matter? Or we just got to plan around it? No.
Mm-hmm. Are all the meetings going to be virtual? Sydney, could you answer that
I
one?
certainly hope not.
Yeah, so as of right now, the meetings are virtual. Those are just for some practical reasons. We're able to record the meetings and we are able to live stream the meetings to public. In the future might be a discussion, but as of right now, all meetings are virtual.
Well, that sucks. It's not a very, it's not very conducive to brainstorming and planning. It's a terrible way to conduct meetings. After 2.5 years of this, I'm quite fed up with it, to be perfectly honest with you.
I second that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we might have a couple others too. All right, I see Matthew's just signed in here from the clerk. Matthew, the clerk.
Yeah, hi everybody. Matthew Trenham, I'm the city clerk here at the city of Thorold. I just thought I'd chime in on that discussion there. Yes, currently the direction is that we will remain virtual. The reality is it will be an all or nothing situation because of the recording piece, and it'll be for all committees or sort of no committees. So essentially we're looking at the direction for whether or not we're going to bring all of the committees back. But if we do and we wish to continue recording, we have to do all of this in council chamber, which is a little bit complicated because it's the only place we have the recording piece. So if we bring people back in person, what that means is we'll no longer be able to record these meetings and have them viewable to the public. Again, it's still a public meeting. Anyone would be free to attend, but if we meet in person, what will happen is we'll have to start meeting at City Hall, and that'll be sort of the location and how we'd be doing it going forward. So that is the current direction. It's a much bigger question that affects all of the committees as a whole. Staff are looking into what our options are, but for the time being, the direction is to go forward with online meetings just because of the accessibility to the public, the ability for people to view it online at any time. There's a lot of value in that, and that it may not be willing to lose that aspect to the committee structure. So I ask you to hold tight. I understand a lot of people really do want to get back to meeting in person. It's not that we're saying we won't, it's just saying we're not at present.
Ian.
My question really is, because it's a public meeting, we just need to have like a live recording. Like if you want to view it, you got to be able to access YouTube at any time of the day, correct?
So yes and no. The precedent that we sort of set is this YouTube ability. So yes, it's live streamed, but it's also stored on our YouTube channel. So anybody can go back and watch that meeting later. Mm-hmm. The only room where we have that capability of doing that is if we move to the council chamber.
So you don't have the availability to purchase a owl camera that circulates a round table in any room? Which would allow us to hold meetings basically in any municipal space available.
So again, that becomes a budgetary question, which is why it's much bigger than just for this. There is certainly potential for that. There's potential for upgrading our technology at City Hall to be able to do these things. Again, currently there's no money set in the budget for this sort of operation. So that's why it's a bigger question that we need to really look at across the board for the city.
Okay, so as like a member of a committee, can we as a committee, can we not put a budgetary ask for something like that if we have the availability? Like, if it's something that is like, oh, here's something we can use, can we get it passed? Because I'll do research on cameras because I use them all the time, and I'm part of other type of meetings that like our board meetings, and we have one simple camera that sits in the middle of the table, and whoever speaks, the camera turns to it. A committee could certainly put through that motion. However, what will happen at council is that will get referred back to staff to sort of review, because then we'll have to look at budget for purchasing. A report would have to come forward. Again, city staff are already looking into what are our options for this and what we'd like, what can we do. This committee, as an example, is likely too large to meet in our committee room. So we would have to potentially use the council chamber. Again, that comes with some other, we don't necessarily have all the seating. So it's an interesting call. So what the current thought process is if we go back to meeting in person, what will happen is we'll probably lose the ability to do the recording at present unless we can get a budgetary approval to go and purchase some technology for that. So all we need is a camera, the ability to record and live stream the meeting, and we can use any municipal service. There's the library, there's the Canada Games, there's council, there's the second floor of the old age place. There's multiple areas.
We also just have to consider our procedural bylaw and the policies that we have in place that say where these meetings meet. So we have to change policy in order to do that as well. So again, that's what makes it a bigger conversation. And again, it can't be for one committee, it needs to be for all of our committees. So I agree. It's not that it's impossible. It's that it's just, as we're getting these committees up and running, we need to look into that and make those considerations. It's also a difference in staffing because now we potentially need to have more staff in these meetings than we would otherwise. So there can be a cost associated with that as well. So that's what makes it a bigger decision, and we need to get a report to council on that.
Okay. How many staff currently do we need if all of us attend here, how many do we need?
If it's virtual going forward, you'll likely only have 2 staff members. I'm in this meeting just as it's the first meeting. Sydney will be working for this meeting. Working from the clerk's office to take minutes, agenda management. You will also have staff representation from the community services department. They'll be here. I believe Dave is still online. Usually it would be Stephanie as your staff liaison rep. So you would need those 2. We potentially need more if we're moving to in-person and or if we're using technology. It's an unknown. We'd have to connect with, again, there's a number of items at play.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, I saw your hand, but I did see Robert has his little virtual hand up there first. So I'm gonna jump to Robert and I'll get to you. Okay, Ken?
Is there some kind of a rule that has come into effect that we have to have a virtual meetings, that they have to be recorded? We take minutes. Shouldn't that be enough? That's
so
my question.
through the chair, it's the precedent that we set, and all municipalities are currently dealing with this, and the accessibility that we get by being able to put these out there in the way that we are, and by allowing people to attend the meeting virtually if they can't attend in person, there's been a lot of benefit to that, and it's difficult to lose that. So again, we have to change our procedural bylaw if we're no longer going to be offering hybrid as an option. I don't have all the answers on this, unfortunately, and I know that people are jumping to get back in person. It's just at present, we are not ready to move forward with that.
Okay.
Ken? Did you still have a question?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I would suggest is I like Ian's idea. So maybe Matthew, when you guys are discussing that, you can discuss the owl camera, I believe he called it. if that can go into the discussion, that'd be great. But you said the word, I like the hybrid version. I like hybrid council. For myself, I'm at work today. I wouldn't have been able to make it. I can make it like this. I like a hybrid version. And that's what I've been pushing at City Hall for things, is that if you want to meet in person, it's the opportunities there at City Hall. It can be recorded, but you can also come in like we do at council meetings where if you can't attend, you can come in virtually, like if you're at work or something else, kids, whatever. So I like the hybrid version, and that's what I've been trying to push for everything. So it gives you more opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Did I see Joe? Did you just have your hand up?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I like the hybrid idea. And I don't know whether it's appropriate at this time or not, but I would suggest that I would put a motion that we request through this committee that staff look into the ability to create a hybrid method of meeting. And if I have a seconder, anybody?
Yes, Robert has his hand up.
Okay, so that would be my motion, that we request that City Council and through staff look into the ability to create hybrid meetings. And as not part of the motion, I know that there's people on here or on other committees. Anything else I'm on, I'm going to make the same motion.
I'd second your motion on those as well for the other committees. So does anyone have an idea of what the price of one of these owl cams go for? Ian, do you?
The one that my governing board purchased, I believe, was about, it was under $2,500. But it was one of, like, they bought like a bigger version more than they needed. But I can get a price quote from them and forward it to you if you guys would like.
Yeah, because I believe it would serve not just this council, but it would be able to serve other councils as well. And
As far as I know, it's, you plug it in and it's based off of Wi-Fi, and you can connect it through your phone, and it records and streams to wherever you connect it to. So it's a pretty easy thing to do. And if we invest in that type of technology that's movable, we can use every city space available wherever we are. As long as we concede as a group, next meeting's at the Thorold Library, we can use all of our historical rooms. We can go to the Allenburg Community Center, like use the spaces we have, and let's bring the people back to them.
Okay, good idea. Did anyone else have any questions? Oh, I see another hand from the clerk's part, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're welcome to pass along any quotes. I also just want to advise that we have procurement rules that we have to follow. So without being able to know exactly how much that's going to cost, again, it'll be a budget adjustment, and we're already in budget times right now. So pretty much anything over $1,000 we'll need a council budget adjustment for. So it's, which is again why it's a bigger question. Your motion going forward will land on the council agenda, and will trigger a staff report on this to come back to council. And that's how that would work. When we get to talking about meetings, of course, the reason we set the agenda like this is because we do have notice requirements as well. So we have to set a place and time where the meeting will always be held. And then we provide that notice to the public so that they're fully aware of when this is happening, what time it's happening. So once we sort of get started with this, that's sort of what we're locked into. We can later amend how we're doing that. But that's why we were prepared to go with virtual for the time being, just because of those notice requirements. So it'll take a few cycles of meetings if we make an amendment to how we are meeting in order to allow for those notices to go out properly and to be accepted from a legislative perspective. So again, there's just a lot of pieces that come into play with our procedural bylaw. Not that anybody is against it or for it on staff. We're not currently prepared to have an answer on it. So it's going to take some time to pull that report together and figure out exactly what we can recommend.
Okay. I just have one question. You mentioned you're providing direction, but who's providing the direction on this? That was for you, Matthew.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, in terms of back to count. So what happens is if you pass a motion here asking for staff to look into this.
Sorry, that was the wrong question. It was just regarding the virtual meeting. You were saying that you've been provided direction as this is what we're doing, sort of thing. So who's providing that direction to you, or does that come from?
It was a decision. Sorry, it was a decision of our senior management team that this is how we need to continue going forward until we have a bigger, picture in place, until we know all of the next steps. There are some committees that only want to stay virtual. And again, it's complicated to kind of have a mix mash of it. And that's why the recommendation that we decided on for at least this term, or sorry, not the term, for this current year was to stay virtual. And then the intention was to have a solution by the end of this year. That was our intention. But if enough people are looking for it, we can certainly come back with a report on that recommendation. But as an example, other municipalities, some have come back in person, some haven't formed their committees yet. Most of them are recommending that they stay virtual.
Okay. All right. So we haven't really, so we've come to a decision that we kind of want to go to a hybrid version. But as for the next meeting, Sydney, I'm going to ask you, how is the next meeting being conducted and who's sending out that information and time and place and that sort of information?
I believe as of right now, we will be doing the next meeting virtually until any decisions have been made. I will be making the agenda and I will be publishing the date on the city website. And I will also be sending emails to everyone of the date, time, and Zoom link for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will move on to the next question. So it says, can I get a mover and seconder for report HAC-C 1-2023? I have a mover, Marcia.
What motion is that?
That was my question. Sydney?
Point of information, this would be bringing the report onto the floor. In the report, we have suggested times of meetings going forward. If you would like to change these times, you can make an amendment to the report and then vote on the amendments.
That's what I thought. But we never got any further in the discussion.
Yeah. It kind of went on a tangent there. So I guess for the next meeting, what would be the time and place for the next meeting, Sydney?
Corey, can we just get a seconder for that motion and then we can discuss when we would like to move meetings to?
I have a seconder for the motion.
Also,
Tony. Thank you, Tony. Okay, so
as long as we keep it the first week, every night except Tuesday or Thursday is good for me.
Yeah, Thursday for myself doesn't really work year round. Thursday is usually the night that doesn't work the most.
No, and I usually try to watch or attend council, whichever I'm capable of,
Tuesdays,
whatever I can do. So I don't like to miss that. I've been following council now for over 35 years.
I see, George, you have a question.
Mr. Chair, I don't know who this would be directed to, but as far as city staff attending evening meetings, this would probably be through you to Sydney. Is staff available to attend evening meetings, or would be without city staff if we went to say 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock evening meeting?
Good question, Sydney.
Through the chair, city staff would attend evening meetings, me specifically. We do have to work around the other committee schedules, and some committees are already scheduled for evenings. So if you are looking for evenings, I would recommend Mondays. There's currently no committee evening, no committees meeting Monday evenings, or the first Thursday. There's no committee meetings of each month.
I can't do the first Thursday.
We have events committee on Thursdays evenings.
I'm gonna make a motion for Mondays because Monday for me seems to work the best. I see some people shaking their head yes. It's kind of
I'll second Monday if it's
okay.
What time would you be looking at?
After dinner?
6:30, 7?
Yeah, 6:30, 7 o'clock works for me. I mean, is there any, okay, so we'll say Monday at 7. Is
Sure.
there
Sounds good.
Are you saying the
Motion.
first Monday? The first Monday of every month?
the first Monday of every month at 7 o'clock? Sydney, or sorry, Robert, you're still.
Well, I'm just wondering, is there holidays on those Mondays? First Mondays?
Some Mondays, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Okay. Well, it won't matter to me. I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
Okay.
just
Sydney,
putting it
I think that's where Sydney's going here. She's on
I
vacation.
would also just like to point out that the terms of reference for this committee has this committee meeting quarterly as of now. That could also be changed if you guys would like. However, that is what it is right now. You are also able to call special committee meetings whenever you would like at the call of the chair. So that can accommodate for holiday Mondays and when you need an extra meeting.
Quarterly?
Or so was that quarterly? Okay.
I have a
know
quick
what we can
question.
accomplish.
I think everyone's a little silent now because
In the paperwork that was forwarded to us via email, the memorandum for the proposed dates in 2023 has one for every month, but our terms of reference are quarterly. So why weren't we just given 4 dates instead of 12?
Sorry, just one moment, I'll confirm.
can I ask a question to Marcia? You served on the committee prior. Did you find that was enough meetings to get done what you wanted to get done?
We didn't meet quarterly. We met monthly the last 4 years.
Okay.
And we would, if we needed a special meeting, sometimes we didn't have information back from staff, so we didn't have a meeting because if we were working on a project, we were sometimes waiting on staff reports. But we
Okay.
I'd have them online like the first, whatever it was, Thursday of each month or Wednesday each month.
Okay, thanks. Sydney?
My apologies. This committee does meet monthly.
Okay.
This committee right after this does
Okay.
quarterly. My apologies.
All right. Okay, so the time would be the first Monday of every month at 7 p.m.
That does not fall on a stat holiday.
Yes, Sydney, would we have you or Matthew, I guess you can answer the question here.
Just through the chair, I'll also ask if Sydney can just confirm that we don't have any conflicts with other committees during that time, if she can just do a quick look at our calendar. But what would happen is if you fall on a Monday, we can move that particular week just to the next week.
Okay. Sydney?
Through the chair, there's no other meetings the first Monday in the evening.
Sorry, I didn't catch the first part of that.
Sorry, there's no other committee meetings that are meeting the first Monday of each
Okay.
month in the evening.
Jeff?
This is a strange year. There's absolutely no holidays on the
Except
first
for
Monday.
September, Tony, you have Labor Day on the 4th. You haven't
Yeah,
got that yet.
no, you're right.
Just
February 20th, but it won't hit. Yeah.
just to be clear in my own mind, based upon what we've discussed, our next meeting, sorry, would be Monday, March 6th at 7 p.m. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Can we call, so all those in favor of Monday, the first Monday of the month at 7 p.m. All in favor? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I think we have 9 of, what do we have here? 16 people. And all oppose? Okay, it's passed. All right. Next, all right, next meeting scheduled. So the next meeting will be scheduled for March. Sorry, let me flip my calendar. He just said it. So it is March 6th at 7 p.m. There's being no further business to this meeting. Sydney, yes.
Sorry, I believe we missed item number 10, the roundtable discussion.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did miss that one. Apologies. Roundtable discussion. So I'm going to start with Eva. Hi, Eva.
Mute.
You're muted. Yeah.
Am I unmuted? No.
Oh,
Eva, you're muted still.
Is that better?
That's
Yeah.
better. Thank you.
Okie dokie. I have a couple of items that relate back to the terms of reference, and in particular to the special committees and what the relationship is on an ongoing basis between the two subcommittees and this particular advisory committee. I know there is a quarterly reporting back, but are we taking forward recommendations? Do they make recommendations to council on their own? What's the relationship there?
Through you, Sydney.
Yeah, so from my understanding, the subcommittees will report into the Parks, Trails and Recreation Committee. So if one of the subcommittees passes a motion, it will be brought to this committee, and then from this committee, it will move on to City Council.
That is very clear. So then something very different from all of the great information that I've been reading in the last few days. I just want to make everyone aware that there is currently a program. It's called the Seniors Community Grant Program that can provide funding to seniors. And of course, seniors have an interest in parks, in trails, in recreation, sports recreation, more passive kind of recreation. So the program is available currently, provides up to $25,000 in funding to not-for-profit organizations. And the program is open till the 6th of March. So I will send this to Sydney, who can then send it out to everyone else. If you know of an organization, a seniors organization, please make sure that they have the information. That's it for now.
Thanks, Sydney. I'm going to move on to George.
One of the issues I'd like to see addressed is, as I said previously, my wife and I do a lot of walking, and one of the areas that we walk on is the trail between Portland, like at the top of the Peter Street Bridge and down. And a lot of people that we know that we meet on the trail have safety concerns because a lot of, as the season progresses, there's a lot of canopy that starts to grow over top of the trail, and people start to feel unsafe because, and we have encountered people just sitting there, and I'm not quite sure what they're up to when they're sitting on the rock wall. I don't think it's anything good, but they haven't bothered us. And the other thing, it sort of relates to that trail as well, is that years ago, that all along the railway, there's a lot of scrub brush that's grown up, and now that scrub brush is now 15, 20 feet high. So if you are walking along the trail there, when there's foliage on the vegetation, it's very difficult to see the ships. And I think one of the benefits of that trail, or why it was designed, so that when you were walking, you could clearly look at the ships. So one of the things I'd like to discuss or work on with the city is to better maintain that walking trail, and particularly the area that's on the other side of the fence that probably belongs to the railway. But somebody needs to address that area down there, because it is that people have said that they don't feel safe, and I can see why they don't feel safe.
Thanks. Tony, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just two things from the last two speakers. The Lake Gibson Task Force, we've always reported, like we've always given updates to this committee. Usually I did it myself because I was on this committee at the time, but I guess my question is are the things that we pass in our task force they're specialty items that have to do with heritage and conservation and stuff as well, not just parks. We have a $150,000 budgeted for a study on what to do with the property that we're still waiting on if they ever sort it out. And so I'm wondering, will that work with the same with us in future? If we have a motion, we have to bring it to this committee. I guess my question's for Matthew.
That's to you, Matthew. Yep.
Yeah, so through the chair, yes, the reporting structure is that it would come through here. However, a spend like that, so a project you say that has a $150,000 item to it, is going to usually, or I would suggest should, have some form of staff report that's supporting it or other staff information. And depending on the subject matter, it may also need to touch on other committees. So if there's a heritage aspect, it may have to go before the Heritage Committee for input before it finally, moves forward. So perhaps the process for something like that might be it needs to get some input from the Heritage Committee. Then it comes to the Lake Gibson Task Force for a recommendation, which comes through this committee on its way to council. And that's sort of the flow of approvals, the way it's been developed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big change because I've been on that committee since 2003 and we've always gone directly to council. But anyway, the other thing is who was it now? George, was that your comment about the canopy?
Yes, it was.
At any rate, that used to be cut down by people that lived along there. 3 or 4 of them have since passed away and another one moved away. And so the people that used to do that no longer do. The city did it about 3 or 4 years ago, but they don't do it very often because they have to get approvals from the railway and a whole number of there's a whole lot of rigmarole to that because that's actually railway property beyond that fence. Mm-hmm. So they have to get a machine that comes up the tracks that cuts it from down below.
Yeah.
So it's certainly worthwhile starting all of this moving, but chances that it'll happen this year are pretty slim. That would have to be budgeted for, and all the approvals would have to be put in place and everything. I was with this committee for a while. So we've had this before. I used to be on the Canal Trails Committee as well for about 14 years. And that came up a lot. But the problem always is that you're dealing with a corporation that, well, it's a private company for one thing that owns the railway. And railways, of course, are federally mandated. So you always run into these problems with crossing jurisdictions and private companies and all that kind of stuff. It's a dog's breakfast, but they know how to do it. It just takes a long time because there's a lot of red tape involved. just so you know how that used to come to be.
All right.
I could comment on that too, Tony. I work in rail and transit. So anytime you're entering a corridor of any sort, you have to have a flagman present at both sides of the tracks. They have to be stopped. So if it's just for a small portion between there, CN should be able to come in and do that. But I mean, they're not going to have their machines out just to go do one portion of a corridor.
Yeah.
They would do the entire thing. So it just becomes a bigger question of how often do they do this instead of, can you come do it now? It's like, maybe, well, you have to update, do the whole thing, but
It's not CN though, it's Trillium Railway.
it's Trillium Railways. Okay.
Yeah.
But at some point there's like leased lands and stuff that they would have to use to access to get to there either way. But okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Next on the list, George, did you have anything else?
No, I was just going to add to what Tony said, is that
Okay, yeah.
it's been a concern for a long time, because you said it's come up over the years. So not that it has to be done next week, but I think it's just something that one of those things that we could keep looking into it, and maybe get some response back from the city and looking into this issue. That's all.
Yeah, instead of a one-time thing, more of like a every, spring
In a year.
something.
Those trees there grow like crazy. They're practically weeds. So.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to move on to Rich. Is it Rich or Rick?
Rich.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I don't have any specific issues that I can think of necessarily. Like I said, I'm just getting into the whole council thing, or committee thing is new to me. So just trying to follow, and it is tough like this. I'm not a computer guy necessarily, so these meetings are a little tough. It's great for listening, but for discussion wise, it's tough.
I hear you. All right. Thanks, Rich. Jeff, you're next on.
I have nothing to add. I completely agree with Rich's comment, but mostly I'm here to absorb and learn from you folks. So thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Tony, anything else you want to add? No? Okay. Robert.
Maybe somebody from the city could possibly email me a simple map of what lands are around Beaver Dams and up along the old Welland Canal, the second Welland Canal is, that are actually owned by the city, that the city has access to. I'm not trying to, this is not for personal gain here. I just want to know if there is property that the city owns around Beaver Dams. Yes, Tony.
Okay.
Again, that's one I can answer.
Well, I'd like to have the map, but the answer is fine, but
we were in the process of getting it mapped before the whole planning department turned over.
Oh.
And they're looking to see whatever happened to that. But the city does own lands there. They own the land all behind the public works yard and all in around behind the back of Beaver Dams. When that committee first started up, we got the city to buy all the land on the east, past the east end there, up to the third canal, service canal there.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes almost as far as the intake for the lake up there.
Yeah. Is there a possibility you have a rough sketch you could email me or something, Tony? Or
yeah, I can
pick it up.
Probably give you. Yeah, I got a rough sketch. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Robert. If you want to contact the city, you usually would just contact the engineering department or the GIS department. I don't think Thorold is big enough to have a specific GIS department, but they're the ones that would create and also manage their data assets of where and what land parcels they own. But there's availabilities, like there's websites you can visit online that they might be able to bring you to, and you can create your own maps. I just know through the city of Niagara Falls that there's departments here that manage that, like the assets and data assets in the land parcels. So there are maps that can be created, historical maps. You'd have to contact the city to find out if they're willing to copy them and if there's a cost associated.
Okay.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, next, Joe.
Yeah, just got a question for the clerk's department that just came to me. It's not, may or may not be relevant directly to this committee, but with all the filming and whatnot, I have been on committees where occasionally you have to discuss property matters and whatnot. Is there a provision to go in camera on these meetings?
Matthew or Sydney?
I believe
Yeah,
there's the option that we can do a closed session for committees.
Okay, I just wanted to, I assumed there was, but I wanted to make sure, quite frankly. Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks, Joe. Peter.
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Ian.
Nothing at this moment, but I'll probably bring some stuff at the next one.
I'm thinking a lot of people are
I just got to reperuse that master plan that I've already read through. So got to make sure I know what the Thorold wants and see where we're going. Still looking for. So
great, thank you. So I have the clerk's department. I have Councillor Sentence.
No, good discussions. Yeah, I like this group and I look forward to our next meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Deborah.
I have nothing at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. And Matthew. All right. Did I miss anybody? Besides myself, like Ian, I'm sure we all have lots to discuss, but let's save some efforts for future meetings because it looks like we got a lot ahead of us here. So with that, there'll be no further business unless anyone can claim otherwise. One more thing from George.
Well, just one quick question.
Sure.
Through you probably to Sydney for bringing information forward to the committee. Are we able to send something to you so that it becomes an agenda item at a future meeting?
Yes, you can send something either to me or Stephanie, the staff rep, who will send it to me, and I can put that on the agenda for a future meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there's no further business, we have Tony. Tony, you're muted.
Sorry, but usually agenda items have to go through the chair. That would be the normal way of doing it. Karen, you actually set the meetings, so I see Matthew wants to comment.
Matthew, comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if there is something that a committee member wants put on the agenda, so let's say there was an article in Thorold today that was very relevant to one of the local parks and they'd like to discuss it at the committee meeting, they can send that through a staff rep or to Sydney, as was suggested, but prior to every meeting, we will review the agenda with the chair just to go through, and they'll have that opportunity to, in terms of agenda management, what is reasonable and what do we have an opportunity to discuss, considering the goals, mandate, et cetera, whether or not that item can remain on the agenda.
Thanks, Matthew. So for myself and my own clarity, being the chair and new to chairing meetings of this nature, I chair many meetings with our engineering department, but when an agenda item gets brought up, it goes through myself to Sydney, and Sydney puts it on the agenda for the next meeting. Is that correct? Sydney?
From my understanding, they could get sent to me. I would put them on the agenda, but before we publish the agenda, we will go over the agenda with the chair, and then you will have the opportunity to discuss.
Okay.
I believe that's what Mark said.
Okay, so the agenda starts with the clerk's department, with yourself.
Yes.
And then we get the agenda. So we get to comment on the agenda. We don't get to create the agenda.
So people can send me items to put on the agenda. The
Okay.
clerk's department will make the draft agenda. We will then run the draft agenda by you as the chair. And then once we both agree on the agenda, we will publish the agenda for the public and the rest of the committee members.
Okay. I have a little bit of learning to do, but I guess we all do. So, okay, if there's no further business, going once, twice. Sold. Well, I will call this first meeting adjourned. I look forward to many more over the next 3 years.